Hey guys, Peshev from Derrick's here. Lots of people ask me about their efforts in terms of popularizing their content online, and they do say, "Hey, we've started a podcast and it isn't really getting any traction, or we are writing, some fancy, trendy stuff online. It's getting a lot of likes, but we don't really get any leads out of that." So I'd like to kind of stress on what's getting viral online and also what's the difference between viral and sellable and how to differentiate that if you're starting your own business or if you aim to become an influencer or anything along those lines. So if we have to, so let's consider the people who you follow or the YouTube channels you follow, people on LinkedIn that you read regularly and so forth. Usually they fall in one of the three categories. Number one is real world rock stars. Like for example, you may follow Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, Satya Nadella, Tim Cook, whatever. Real people who are famous in the real world, who have accomplished a lot, and whenever they create a sign up online for whatever and create an online account, they're already popular. Like if Tim Cook creates his own Snapchat, I'm pretty sure he's going to gain millions of followers simply because of his fame. That's just an example. Number two is entertainment. By entertainment, you can see that as a broad field. So it's fun, anecdotic, humorous stuff, or tabloid stuff. Some scandals or anything like that, or political stuff, or even motivational lifestyle quotes that attempt to make you feel better. So for the most part, those aren't things that are helping you in any way, so to speak. You can think of 9gag, you can think of BuzzFeed or anything out there that you try to browse in your spare time or in your breaks or over lunchtime, whatever it is, but doesn't really give you anything, just satisfies you, entertains you, and so on. And number three is educators, people who create educational content for something that really helps you and can teach you something, and you can improve your skills upon what they try to give you online. And what most people fail to recognize when they start publishing online, be it through content or audio or video or anything like that, is there's a difference between being viral and being successful as a business. What I'm trying to say here is the following. If you get tons and tons of followers, but you post pictures of your food or anything that doesn't bring value to people, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to hire you for whatever position. And that's not what I'm trying to say is this is the norm. They are not going to hire you for anything unless they need someone who who is simply popular or can help them in something relevant. You can think of circus artists or a TV show producer or something else that requires popularity and virality and things like that. But if you expect a consulting deal, if you expect something else for just bringing value and building a stronger brand for a business, you're likely going to end up with someone who's an actual influencer, which means someone extremely popular in real life, or someone who's an educator, someone who can bring the value of a business outside and can showcase it and find how customers relate to that brand and so on and so on and so on. So those are again kind of those three categories. And again, the two groups of people that I usually meet are number one, entertainers who record daily videos on LinkedIn. They're shiny and happy and yada yada yada, but they can't really land a new job or they can't really close any leads because potential customers don't see them as a valuable proposition. They don't see the value in them. They don't see their skills. They see someone who's chatty, who's friendly, who can speak with the public, but unless they have a job for that specific thing, they can't really assess the value of that particular person. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is people who try to exploit education in a good way, but they're too impatient. I know people who have started podcasts and generated like 100 views a day, 100 show listens or whatever a day for the first year or a year and a half. It just gets some time to build traction, to record enough episodes, to gain momentum, to provide the right value for people to actually subscribe and sign up for you. I know YouTube influencers who say the first 10,000 followers are the hardest. Even if you get to the first 1,000, it gets a bit easier, but after 10,000, like it pretty much runs on autopilot. So you can't expect to go from 50 to 100 in a day. unless you pay for that. You can't expect that the time for reaching 50, 100, 500, 1000 is going to take again to become overnight. It takes time to build that initial following. And that sort of kind of online reputation is something that matters to new followers. Before you sign up for something, you probably take a look at what sort of content they've produced to date, how much is it, how valuable is it, how much comments, shares, yada yada it gets, in order to decide whether you want to subscribe or not. Because otherwise it could be someone who's just starting out or someone who may stop tomorrow or whatever be it. But if you decide to take the educational route, definitely be prepared that it's going to be a long journey. It's going to be slow but steady, but it is going to help your lead generation. Because let's consider the following scenario. So you're a business that sells some form of machinery, right? Like let's say fridge equipment or something like that. So if you do that, it would make the most sense to produce content for people looking for that. So you need to define your buyer persona, you need to take a look at your competition, you need to do some organic research and find out what works for your audience. And based on your the audience's demographics, you need to answer those questions and so on and so on. Then you're going to reach to repurposing content, and the list goes on. So it's a long effort. It's usually anywhere between a year and two in order to start getting some real traction, but it's worth it and it makes sense in the long run. And people can associate that brand with the value that it provides. So that's extremely important. On the other hand, if that same company starts writing BuzzFeed type of stories, like the 10 most delicious foods, or I don't know, the 50 celebrities who have someone who looks alike, they are going to get a lot of traction through social. They are going to get clicks and likes and shares and so forth. But does it mean that they're going to close customers? Most likely not. Traffic is important, but it's not the most important thing. If you bring a lot of traffic that doesn't convert, this is going to harm you in the long run. Why? Because you're going to get higher bounce rates, because people are not going to read other stories from your blog, which means that Google is going to start de-ranking you more or less. Moreover, Google may actually count you as someone in entertainment instead of someone who's in B2B services. So this is going to affect your rankings in other areas for your target keywords. So again, having traffic for topics that are not relevant to your industry may very well bring a lot of, just traffic, but it doesn't necessarily convert to leads. And everyone can choose their own branding. There are people who just want to be perceived as, again, chatty and funny and so on and so on. But if you want to work toward lead generation, you need to provide value, or you need to be big in Japan, in your industry, otherwise outside of the world. So you either have to be really active offline, speak at conferences, go to meetups, meet a lot of people, do a lot of business, and actually have credibility, testimonials, portfolio, whatever, or focus on educating people, focus on solving real problems online. Because here's the thing, when customers are looking for a service provider, be it a freelancer, consultant, someone to hire, they want to see their portfolio online, which means they want to learn as much as possible about them online, which is, again, could be a portfolio, their own website, yada, yada, yada. But they want to understand both the personal side, whether that person is a culture fit, but also the professional side, which is, if not more important, at least as important, because you may have someone who's extremely funny and a good fit for having a coffee at lunch, but it doesn't mean they can actually do the work that you want to get done, right? So making sure that your brand corresponds to what you want to convey to your potential customers or employers or whatever is extremely important. So focus on that. So again, if you've started something for entertainment and you get a lot of traffic, but that doesn't really convert to leads, it means that you're probably targeting the wrong audience. You may consider working in advertising, probably generating money through AdSense, DFP, RTK, something like that, or just switching to something else like selling that website and whatever. If you want to provide value and to started doing education, make sure you're consistent, make sure that you're following through, you're recording materials on at least twice a week or so, you're writing blog posts and so on. And over time, it's going to aggregate, it's going to become more valuable. People will associate with you, people will sign up for you, and eventually some of those are going to contact you for business.